DatelineDrought.com, sponsored by Genuity Drought Guard Hybrids. Hello, everyone. As I join you this Thursday evening with our commentary, we're thinking about the lousy quality of the grain from the crops this year. I'm not just talking about the yield and how it is impaired, but what about the quality of the grain itself? Most years that might not matter so much. This year, with a much smaller crop, well, that may be a different story. Now, we still have yet to get our arms around the actual yield per acre. The Department of Agriculture will come out with a new estimate on that. It's coming up on Wednesday, and that supply-demand report will be pouring through all of the numbers to see what USDA is thinking in terms of yield. What are they thinking in terms of acreage? There's been quite a bit of opinion on that maybe they haven't fully accounted yet for the unharvested acres that we'll have from the crop this year. And then, of course, there's the demand that we're watching closely. To what extent have we pinched off the demand out there with these higher prices? What kind of rationing has already taken place? But above and beyond that, what about the quality of the grain itself? Of course, the aflatoxin problem getting significant attention, understandably so, because of those very stringent standards, very tight tolerances on aflatoxin presence in the corn. Some of that can be blended to a very limited extent. You have to have good quality corn, of course, for that blending to take place to allow for some of this substandard corn. And we're hearing from some growers that not only do you have to watch that quality, of course, in the field, but once you get it in the bin, a couple of farmers have told me that the aflatoxin level on their corn skyrocketed after they got that corn in the bin, out of the field and into the bin. I guess it's a message this year, move that stuff as quickly as you possibly can if there's any evidence of aflatoxin. Then there's the smut problem that is showing up in so many fields. A number of growers came up to me at the Farm Progress Show in Iowa last week talking about what they've seen in their communities in Iowa and Missouri, where that black smut has coated the plants, coated the grain. When the combine goes through the field, there's this massive black cloud around it. I've seen photographs from farms where the combine should have been red or should have been green, should have been yellow. In fact, it was black because of all of the smut out there in the field. What about the quality of the soybeans themselves from this crop? Every winter we take a close look at the bean, oil, and meal content, the real quality of these beans. Generally, that is an exceptional standard that we have, allowing us to market very competitively in the world market against all of the competition out there. This year, will we find when those beans are analyzed that the composition is nowhere near the standard that we generally expect simply because of the weather adversity we put the crop through this year? I pose these questions. I don't have answers for them, but I think it's something we may have to keep on the radar screen this year more so than ever. In many years, it doesn't matter, but with a crop that is so much smaller than we expected this year, those quality concerns may be larger than ever before. Well, let's get a handle on how the markets are performing as we check in with our friend at Farm Futures, Bryce Knorr.
Commodity prices move strangely at times, and today was one of those days, especially in the wheat market. Futures closed sharply higher at all three exchanges, even though the U.S. lost out on another snap tender by Egypt. As usual, Russia captured most of the business, with Ukraine and Romania also getting smaller chunks of the deal. But the overall size of the tender, 17.5 million bushels, and the higher prices paid suggested the days of cheap supplies out of the Black Sea could be ending perhaps soon. Indeed, Egypt's main buyer said other origins could become competitive, with Russia and Ukraine likely scaling back sales rather quickly. Another big Middle East importer, Iraq, appeared to underscore this possibility by announcing its own tender, which comes on the heels of big purchases by Saudi Arabia last week. After showing significant chart weakness in winter wheat contracts Wednesday, prices bounced back today. Chicago December rallied back above its old trendline support and 50-day moving average, closing 24 cents higher at 8.91 3/4. Kansas City managed a similar comeback on its chart, ending 24.5 higher at 9.11 1/2. Minneapolis wasn't as weak earlier but rallied too, ending up 19 3/4 to 9.49 1/2. Corn couldn't manage those types of gains, and its chart wasn't as strong either. Still, a sale of 8.6 million bushels to unknown destinations, announced by USDA under its daily reporting system for large purchases, was the first big deal for corn in a while. Plus, ethanol production in the latest week rose 10,000 barrels a day, another sign that high prices haven't totally killed demand. December futures closed back at its August support line, gaining 7 3/4 to 7.98 1/2. Soybeans were the odd man out today and looked like they were close to suffering their own chart meltdown. But in the end, you couldn't keep a good bean down, at least not much. November futures ended down 1/2 cent to 17.47 after bouncing off chart support drawn off August lows. Keep up with the drought situation across the country by visiting www.datelinedrought.com.